Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome. This is Jessica and Awasi, and you guys might notice that I have been introducing my given name more and more. My given name is Jessica Hall. There are those in a portion of my life that know me by that name and know me by that name only. There are those in a portion of my life now that only know me by Awasi. And in this phase of my journey, I am reconnecting them from a space of not being ashamed of Jessica. They both hold very specific signature frequencies of me as a soul. My soul lives through Awasi. Actually, I would say spirit lives through Awasi. Soul lives through Jessica. So as I'm feeling the call to really merge these and not place Awasi on a pedestal and not limit Jessica because I feel like she's not worthy. I'm bringing them back together, and I want people to know them both. I want people to see them both. Not that you necessarily have to understand why, but just inviting an opportunity to allow both of those names to serve. And that's really, in terms of what our episode is about today. We're going to be, really going into what the I am is and the assumption of the I am. And my aim here is not to teach you. It's to assist you in deconditioning the assumptions that are unconsciously made around or about the I am. And this is also, the I am, that assumption or the assumptions of the I am play so strongly into who Jessica is, into who Awasi is. And this is because of the way that each of them sees themselves and the world. I know that all of us, our birth name, our given name, let's look at that name as a name that carries the karmic baggage of our family line. It is the ancestral line. It is every choice, every experience embedded in the DNA. Jessica is a fractal of that experience. Awasi is the embodiment of all of it. So Awasi speaks from that point in space and time that has learned the lesson, can provide the wisdom, but it's up to Jessica to apply it. It's up to Jessica to take that aligned action. Because if not, then there's still separation. Then I'm just downloading information or data like you would on, if you go into AI and you input information, you can get any type of feedback, any type of information you want, and you can share that with the world. And it will sound very good. It will sound as if you know what you're talking about, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you understand what you're sharing. And one thing that you will also hear from me is, for me, understanding is directly correlated to lessons learned. And for me, understanding means that I have learned, incorporated, and embodied what I have learned. When I'm still up and knowing works in with that. I'm starting to have a better relationship with the word knowing. A lot of times though, the know-it-all self will speak through what they know. And so I'm learning how to also supply my language or serve through the language by being the word without trying to be seen as the knowing of the word. And that's something I would invite in for everyone as well. Now, if you'll notice, a few moments ago, I spoke about my relationship with the words, or with the word. This is something that is going to be, I would say, a pretty vital part of your exploration of self through your assumptions and through understanding your whys. At birth, we start associating ourselves with words. We start associating others with words. So even though in the womb, we don't understand or really know what language is, we're still processing it through the body. We're processing the emotions of the mother through the womb. We're processing the emotions of the father through the field. We're processing our relationship before we even access what words are. But make no mistake about it, you still are gaining, let's say, an internal dialogue from that relationship and that connection. And this is because you've already agreed to your specific bloodline. Your bloodline, of course, is more than just organic blood. That organic blood carries information. If we look beyond what we think something in the physical is, we can see a little bit more clearly how reality is functioning through us and through that organic structure. So if you give yourself permission, I would invite you to explore the physical body as a vibrational stream of information, of data, of energy, and frequency. So allowing the brain to be the processing center for the information and the data. I've heard it made mention that when you go deep into this process of self-mastery, it's about being in the body and not the mind. That is true to some degree, at least in my experience, but I want to expand on this. The mind and the nervous system are one and the same. But those words are true because if you're just operating unconsciously through the nervous system, then your autonomic or your automated system is looping information that you have not looked at. You haven't brought your awareness to that information, and as the source, the awareness is the source. You have not brought your source creatorship to that loop to better understand why it's happening. So this is when we operate, that's how we operate through the mind. Okay, when we're in the mind, we're looping through a state of unconsciousness. Our nervous system is dysregulated, and it's just basically sending signals that we have picked up along the way, that we have said, we've chosen to believe and internally said, that's true for me, without further taking a magnifying glass to it and looking at it and saying, okay, is this really me? Is this really for me? Is this really mine? Or am I just agreeing to it because I don't want to be seen as not understanding? I don't want to be seen as lacking compassion. When we shy away from really looking at things because we're usually afraid of what other people are going to think about us, because simultaneously we're thinking about what other people are going to think about us, which means our focal point is always on other people. So in this episode, as we go into the assumption of the I am, we're really looking into the identity, presence, and the moment we stop looking. The moment we stop looking at other people or to other people or through other people. And notice the words other people. As I say other people, I don't actually mean the physical person. I mean the way that we, through our relationship with words, have identified ourselves through what we think about them, or what we think we know about them, or what we think they think about us, or so on and so forth. So let's begin here with establishing some foundations around the I am. The phrase I am is, at least in my experience, commonly used, but it's rarely examined. Now, what I mean by that is what I also mentioned moments ago, in that a lot of times we are just walking around and we're basically regurgitating what we have read, what we have heard other people say. Again, there's the other people. And we take that information and we talk about it. We talk about it, we talk about it, we talk about it. But rarely are we being with it. Being with it, and here's another phrase, being or being with something, that gets misunderstood or misused because it's rarely examined. And by examined, I mean being with it in a way where you are the presence, the awareness, you are the conscious, intentional, and purposeful choice. You're choosing to sit and look into the depths of yourself, and you're willing to be asked questions and ask yourself questions that pull that all up from the abyss and bring it into the light. So where I have experienced the most, shall we say, the most common usage of the words I am, where it was also not reviewed or, sat with, observed, examined. And this is in spirituality. manifestation culture, identity work without the actual work. And what I mean by this is that I'm not placing anything on any of those categories. I'm simply observing what has taken place when I have been in the presence of myself in those spaces. And I am now in a space to basically look side by side where I'm at right now and looking at those moments where I was in the spirituality culture, where I was in the manifestation culture, when I was in the identity quote unquote work culture. And the culture is basically the space in these communities and these groups where there's a lot of shared information, but everyone is still seeking. They're still trying so hard. And I was trying so hard. I was seeking. And it's because we go into it not really knowing why we're doing what we're doing. I know for myself, you guys have probably heard me speaking about this recently around knowing your why. I also shared this on Instagram. I jumped into 3 separate, let's say, mentorship spaces. I'm in all 3 right now. Each one is focused on spirituality, manifestation, and identity work. Every single one has some exceptionally valuable resources. They are all fantastic leaders. They are all fantastic mentors, and I highly respect every single one of them. It was my choice to join, which means that whatever is there for me or whatever I am not willing to do is my responsibility. But make no mistake that I choose and I specifically enter into something from a specific frequency. And if there are not, if in that container, in that space, there is not boundaries, guidelines, rules, and regulations that outline exactly what I am there to invest in for myself, then it becomes kind of a hodgepodge of people knowing that they need to do something, but not quite understanding like why they made that choice, what that inner child, where that inner child is choosing from, what types of conditions were based around the choice. And we all do this. I mean, even as I was moving through this most recent shift and having a lot of clarity coming through around myself and abundance, and, there was so much happening. But what I did is I jumped on this continuation from the old identity that was still in urgency and like, oh my gosh, I figured this out. I understand this. I need to hurry up and I need to join. Now that I realize I can join and I can receive more, I need to hurry up and do that so that I can accomplish more and I can get on with it. Like, I know aligned action is necessary. I need to hurry up and take aligned action. That is me knowing that I need to do something, but not understanding the vibrational entry point in which I choose to do it. So what is my signature vibration when I make the choice? Am I excited? Am I in urgency? Am I calm? Am I present? Am I clear on my why? So in that first choice, I was definitely operating from excitement and urgency, and I was still wanting to be seen. My old identity, I had not given myself enough time. Now, not that I need more time, meaning instead of accepting that the time that was moving through me was perfect as it was, I didn't need to add more to it. I took the time and I rushed myself through the time so that I could be at another point in time quicker, right? I need to hurry up and do this. I need to commit. I need to take the action, but so that I can reach that status. One thing I have learned through this process is that urgency does not give you permission to see what is actually moving through your signature frequency. Now, your overall signature frequency has everything you need. And I mean the signature of spirit, not the signature of identity. Your signature of spirit is your abundance frequency. It is your I am that does not rush. It does not attach itself to emotions. It doesn't move through emotions. Emotions move through it. So when you move through emotions, you're in the assumption that I need to hurry up and do this or else I'm going to miss something. So I'm assuming from an inner space of lack still. That means I have not fully given myself permission to be with this new identity, to be in the presence of who this is, to really explore the fragrance and the taste and the sensations of who she is. That commitment, it doesn't just happen in one moment. It happens consistently through every moment. But if I have literally just discovered her and I've just given myself a few days to a week to explore her, and I am assuming that I already know who she is. I do know who she is. But that assumption is still an old assumption. I have not fully embodied this new assumption that I don't need to do something to become her, that I already am her. So I was still operating from the assumption that I need to hurry up and do something to become her instead of becoming consistently familiar or allowing myself to get consistently familiar with myself as the I am that already is her. So when I observe myself through these choices, as I reflect upon her and why she made that choice, I notice when I went into that first group, after the first few gatherings, when I started going deeper into the structure, I realized this isn't my nervous, it wasn't that my nervous system was feeling anxiety. It was actually the opposite. It was like the excitement had worn off. Things felt kind of all over the place. They didn't really my nervous system did not sense the structure that I had committed myself to. So in the I am that I have agreed to, I am agreeing to a higher state of rules. I am containing myself through safety and security. A nervous system that is not contained is a nervous system that does not have structure. It does not have boundaries. It does not have a regulated system. So that's why rules, regulations, and boundaries are a necessity to experiencing safety and security through your masculine in connection with your feminine. This is why a lot of us have a very disconnected relationship with the masculine principle. Because the masculine, or the males that we have explored through, we've been exploring them through the man, which is the identity, instead of the masculine, which is the spirit. It's the structure. It's the always supporting, always safe. But to truly know what that feels like, you must be committed to exploring it within yourself and to showing up to a space that agrees to explore that through that same process. Now, it doesn't mean that those aren't there in that first group, but it means that they're very loosely applied. It's also woman-led. My second two were male-led. The second one was kind of like the midway point between the first and the last. I've only ever really explored through woman-led spaces. I didn't realize how much my nervous system was running through a male-led space or a masculine space. Well, I'm going to say male and masculine. Okay. So the second one, I have not fully, we're just now beginning that one this coming week, but there are a little bit more rules and regulations there. That one's also where I'm getting a certification. So that one's giving me that was basically like my entry point to the third one. Now here comes the third one. And it is heavy in rules, heavy in regulations, heavy in boundaries. There is a clear, this is what we're doing, this is what's not allowed, and if you do not honor the rules, you will be kicked out. That tore me up. I'm telling you, when I read this page of rules and regulations, when I went through the legal documents, and I have read similar through male and female-led spaces, but they were nothing like this. Those spaces were giving boundaries that I felt were more about paying attention to the other people because they wanted to be seen as someone special. Now, these guys, no, it is none of that. It is none of that. When I read those rules and regulations, I realized how much of me was still hidden in my masculine shadow and was assuming that it was still not safe for me to operate through structure. And so this is why for me, showing up has kind of been hit or miss. I have so much space to be with myself, but implementing that, putting it into action, that's another thing. And I see so many people operating through one or the other. They're taking tons of action, but they never rest, or they're always in rest and they don't take action. The balance, the true coherence, where the safety and security is understanding both. So, and of course, when you explore it through community, that's, for me, how it's meant to be done anyways. And in my own space, I have been implementing the same direct reflection, the same, shall we say, truth, transparent, intense space of reflection, but the structure is what was lacking. And I didn't really understand how to take that action. I was trying so hard. It's why I made the choices out of excitement, because I was still in lack. I did not know, I had not yet remembered what that safety and security feels like. So now that I see that it's safe to be in that dynamic, it is all being being translated into my own process. I cannot tell you how grateful I am to be in the presence of male leaders that apply it in this way, to this intensity, to this degree. There is no, there's no bending those rules. It is what it is, and that's it. And I grew up with a father that I love so dearly. He is like just a most amazing man, but he was also an enabler. He enabled me to be, there was rules and regulations, but there was repercussions, and there was like prosecution. There wasn't clarity. And so therefore there was no emotional support. There was just the regulated rules that were also dysregulated through control, and enabling me to remain lax in my lack of clarity. So like going through life, not really knowing what direction to go because there was no true direction. So that's where the addiction came in. It wasn't because of him. It was because my nervous system, through my lessons, what I agreed to not know structure, to not know what it felt like to be in safety. It was already dysregulated. My nervous system was already numb because I was shutting off the emotional capacity, and I was separating myself through seeking, trying to figure it out. So as we're looking at this, and I'm sharing all of this with you guys because as we explore the assumptions of the I am, understanding how your nervous system holds those assumptions has everything to do with how safe you feel in your nervous system. And if your nervous system has not been looked at, if you have not observed it, if you have not really taken the opportunity to examine who you are. What are, your mind lives through your nervous system. And if you're not examining and observing what your process of thinking is, then you're not observing what your process of feeling is, because they interlock. So in these spaces, what I noticed was that you jump in, you have all these things that you're going to do, but nobody really, there's this fantasy, imagination, escapism that's happening. It's a bypassing. You're not getting to know yourself. You're getting to know, like in the spiritual circles, you're getting to know the deities. You're getting to know the gods and goddesses. You're getting to know the angels. You're getting to know the dragons, but you don't know who the hell you are. People go into those spaces escaping themselves and running into these other, dimensional archetypes, because they're looking for something in those, goddesses that they lack within themselves. They're looking for something in the gods that they lack within themselves. Not that they actually lack it, not that I actually lack it, but I have a core belief that makes me think I do, because I think through that core belief. So when I think through a core belief, every thought passes through the lens of that core belief. And if that core belief says, I am not able to do this, then everything that follows will be like, okay, I'm not able to do this unless I, receive a download from the Sophia Codex. I'm not able to do this unless I get my dragon light body activated. And that access point originates in a moment in childhood, or even before then, through an ancestor, where they were taught, or they felt by environmental cues, or a way of thinking that, or maybe hearing other people say, passing it down through religious culture, through cultural dynamics, that the true source of power comes from something outside of you. So that's original, or, religious archetypes. You don't hold the power, God does. You don't hold the power, Yeshua does. The ascended masters do. It's not you. You need to go to them so that they can bestow power upon you. So you can't do it without them. That's one example. And then that also is directly correlated to our relationship with our mother and our relationship to our father. Everything comes from that. So we normally go into these I ams from, like, saying I am this, like, I am an ascended master teacher. I am a Sophia Codex Rose Code initiator. I am a mother. I am a sister. I am a teacher. I am a coach. That is how we discover the mechanism, because I am is never alone. Something always follows it. So we want to look at that first. When I say I am this, what does this really mean? And that's a question I ask my clients all the time when they would say that. But what do you mean by that? You're using the words, but what is your relationship with those words? There's also the I am becoming that. So I am this, I am becoming that. So, I am a teacher, and I am becoming a professor. So I'm taking myself up the ladder. And if I am this and I'm becoming that, then I am not necessarily maybe happy with being this, and I feel like I need to become that. Or I am meant to. Now, I am meant to is interesting because it's, to me, similar to I should have or I could have. It's showing us that I am not wherever I am right now is not good enough. I am meant, or it's not stable enough. And I'm meant to be somewhere else. This place right here isn't supportive. It's not safe. It's not secure. I'm meant to be somewhere else. Now, what I do want to point out is that the phrases themselves are neutral. The assumption behind the I am in that phrase is that it requires completion. So, if I am saying that I am meant to do something, to me, it feels like this moment is unfinished. It's not complete. If I am meant to do something else, then I am not whole right now. And so therefore my identity is going to rush in to try to stabilize that. Well, if I'm meant to do something else, what is it that I'm meant to do? How do I need to accomplish it? What are all the factors that are a part of this for me? This is where striving, effort, and self-improvement attach themselves. When we're right now identifying ourselves as this, but we're becoming that because we have to improve on ourselves to live a better life. And if I am meant to be somewhere else, then I've got to put in extra effort and I got to strive to get there. So what this is showing us is that we have I am as a stabilizer, where the identity attaches, it rushes in, attempts to improve. And then we have I am as a space. Now, this is where we really want to lean into, is I am as a space. So the contrast between these two orientations is that when I am is used as a stabilizer, it's, or actually, let me actually reverse this. Actually, no, hang on. I'm feeling the call to reverse this. Identity can rush in to try to stabilize, because the space feels empty. So I'm actually going to reverse that. I'm going to say when I am is used as a stabilizer without the identity trying to complete the space, then I am can be used to create certainty. It can be used to anchor worth. It can be even paired with a belief that is clearer on its intentions or why. So at the same time, let's also be aware that if the I am is being used by the identity, if the identity is trying to stabilize, then when the I am is not allowed to operate through certainty naturally, when the identity is trying, when it's striving, when it's putting effort in, there's subtle pressure. There's the need to maintain the identity, and there's this constant self-referencing from me. It's like a look at me type of essence. So it's also paired with performance. It's very performance based. Okay. So what I am going to open up and say that when I am is used as a space, I actually want to free that up because I have some notes here, you guys, but I've got some stuff coming in, so just bear with me. So I'm actually going to redirect some of this stuff. When I am is stabilizing through the space, when the identity is not trying to stabilize it, then it looks different. So when the I am is used as a space and not a space that's incomplete, but simply as a neutral space. When the identity is not trying to complete the space through effort, when it's not trying to rush in and perform in an attempt to stabilize, then you're not defining, you're not concluding, you're just simply present. So when I am is simply a space, the nervous system softens. It's in this gateway where the compulsion to prove yourself, that need to perform, is reduced. This is also where your increased perceptual clarity comes in. Those of you guys that work with me, my clients, you hear me say this all the time. Clarity is a word that is always being used through me because clarity is the highest point of conscious awareness. When you see clearly, you're seeing through your heart with your mind directly anchored through the clarity. So you're not in a dysregulated nervous system that's projecting thoughts that don't have an awareness of where those thoughts are coming from. You've sat with the thoughts. You have observed the thoughts. You have examined the thoughts. They now live through a space of clarity because that clarity can see itself in the words without concluding something specific, without attaching to a specific definition. It's simply just a state of presence. And this difference, it's not philosophical, you guys. It's somatic. It lives. It's not a concept. It's not floating around out there. It actually lives through you. So if you're assuming something in terms of, let's look at, if you're assuming something after I am, in terms of I'm filling into what to follow this up with. Let's say I declare I am worthy. Now, if I assume anything after that, I get to assume I am worthy. That is a coherence reflex. I am coherent in the awareness that I am now assuming that I am worthy. Now, if an old assumption persists, it's okay. If you hear certain things like, well, you don't really believe that. You're not making enough money. That person didn't pay you attention. It's okay. It's a safety reflex. Your old identity is trying to step forward and take control because it's still learning that this new identity is safe. So that safety reflex is not a failure of awareness. It's simply an opportunity to accept that it's there. So this is where you gain greater coherence, is that's simply it's a feedback loop that has been so predictable, and it's consistently working. As you're consistently working through neutralizing it, you do not fight it. You redirect it through presence, acceptance, and retaining the truth that stands in, no, I am worthy. And I will not divert from I am worthy. So when you just leave it there, you just allow it to move through, then it's going to feel kind of, you guys heard me say this in the last pre-recording, that abundance feels very disruptive to the nervous system. That spaciousness is going to feel a little bit unsafe at first because you don't know what to expect. You're so used to the predictability of the old identity. You're so used to that focal point, that orientation, that feedback loop, that when this new I am is more spacious, when it's left open, the system is going to feel more quiet. That's going to be a little unnerving at first. That's when people tend to return to effort because they believe that quiet, that spaciousness, that pause means it's not working. So I want you to give yourself permission to allow the spaciousness, to allow the pause, to allow the breath, to relax into the safety and security of this new application, because embodying a new identity, think about how the identity of you is now. You have gained that identity through a lifetime and without even looking at that identity. So when you start looking at it, when you start observing it, when you start examining it under your awareness, under the microscope of your conscious, intentional choice, it starts to blossom under the light of your awareness. Like a flower blooming and layers of petals opening. The petals take up more space, and that's exactly what they're meant to do. So when you start opening up and you start observing yourself, the space that the bud is leaving all that space open for the petals. It might seem like at first that nothing is going to come from that pod, right? It seems very closed off, very restrictive. It feels like it needs to keep what's in there to keep it safe, right? If people didn't understand how a flower worked, they might assume that, And as it starts opening, as it starts revealing its beauty through becoming vulnerable, by letting that shell crack open, or even a butterfly when it emerges from the cocoon. In order for its wings to open, that shell has to break. But it happens in the moment it's meant to. So you don't force it, you don't control it, and you also, just like you don't help a butterfly out of its cocoon, you do not force yourself to come out and take action before. I don't want to say before. No, it's not before you're meant to. You just don't, let's say you just don't force yourself to take action. You move through the awareness that the action is a natural byproduct of what you're learning about yourself. It comes easily. It does not require effort. So, and speaking, let's look at I am and worth, okay? Because this has been a big one coming through with all of my clients. I had a really, really deep somatic session with a client yesterday, and we reconnected her. She reconnected herself, and I was there supporting, reflecting, and guiding to her father in a way that she hasn't. She reconnected to him in a way that she never has. She opened up and blossomed in her nervous system by reconnecting through her bloodline to the memories that were necessary for her to hold this space of compassion and forgiveness, and not consistently operate from the me, from the why me, from the blame, from the shame, from the guilt, from the projection of the I'm not worthy of his time. Therefore, he's not going to be worthy of mine. So worthiness comes from this deep seated space where we felt rejected very early on. And so what tends to happen is that worth is often smuggled into the identity, where I am becomes a place to store value. And this happens because we're trying, right? My loves, we're trying. When I say I am helpful, or I am intuitive, or I am here to serve, I want to ask you to ask yourself, what happens to worth when nothing follows the I am? I want you to ask yourself, what happens to worth when nothing follows the I am? Just observe it. I just want you to sit with that. Because that question right there is a very, very powerful space of revealing yourself to yourself. Does action need to come after the I am in the way that you think it does, or does it get to look different? And as you're sitting with that, I want you to pay attention to what appears internally when I am surfaces. When I am comes into your awareness, what immediately follows it? And I want you to pay attention. Does that addition feel relieving or tightening? Does your nervous system open? Does it blossom? Does it relax? Do you exhale? Or do you feel rigid? Do you feel constricted? Does your heart rate increase? Do you sweat? Do you get cold? Now, nothing to do. You don't need to correct it. You don't need to replace it with something. I just invite you to pay attention to notice the reflex. Because in this practice, awareness alone loosens the assumption. You don't have to do anything. Okay? So, when we're looking at how worth is smuggled into the identity, we place so much value through the lens of the identity on things such as, I believe, if I believe, or I assume. Let me say I assume, because assume isn't necessarily a belief, but it is directly correlated to the why of the belief. If I assume that I am helpful, and I say I'm helpful, or I say I'm intuitive, this was a big one for me, intuitive. I thought for the longest time I knew what intuitive meant. So I would say those words. I'm intuitive. I've had I'm experiencing some intuitive guidance. I am receiving intuitive downloads. But I was at the same time simultaneously placing so much value, like the need for that information to be valuable. So when I would supply it, when I would approach it from the service standpoint, I felt, because I also assumed that if it was intuitive, it was somehow more valuable, more important than anything else. I mean, I had placed it in a bracket. I had placed it in a container. I had identified it as something specific, and the value was attached to that bracket. And if I couldn't get it to fit in that bracket, if somehow it wasn't aligning to that bracket, then my nervous system would start becoming overly excited. Like, what did I do wrong? If I would notice that someone else was offering intuitive information and it sounded better, or it looked different, or other people responded to it better than mine, then I decrease the value of my intuitive guidance. Then in that moment, it wasn't as worthy. So the value goes up, the value goes down. The value goes up, the value goes down. In that place, what was following my I am was an attachment of self through the identity that really only believed in lack, but it assumed it knew the worth of the intuition. See, the true core belief was in lack. My assumption is outputting from that core belief, but it's following itself in a way that has no awareness of the core belief. So it assumes it knows all about intuition, all about worth, all about those things. It assumes it knows because it doesn't fully understand that it's really coming from lack. So if we want to reframe assumption, and I'm going to begin closing it out here, you guys, in the next probably 10 minutes, we're going to be closing here. And I want to say thank you, by the way, to everyone that stayed in here, that's listened to this whole thing. I know a lot of times people don't, they'll only listen to a few minutes, but if you're here for this entire session, thank you. I see you. I appreciate you. I love you. And as we're looking at the assumption reframe, I want to also reiterate that assumption is not belief. It's an unquestioned completion. It's meant to remain unfinished. So when it's unquestioned, for me, I would say that for me, that means that if I'm going into the discovery of myself, I am going to sit and I'm going to ask myself why. Because remember when I mentioned early on that if I assume that I'm meant to be somewhere else, then that assumption is coming from a space that's seeking completion elsewhere, which means I am not asking myself why I assume that I'm meant to be somewhere else. So for me, that's unquestioned completion. The I am, it doesn't require faith, but it moves through faith. I don't want to say it requires it because I don't want to place some sort of expectation on you guys, but I do want to invite in the opportunity to find the safety and security in the necessity of allowing it. Because what it does require is permission to remain unfinished. Your I am through spirit is all things and nothing simultaneously. And if it is all things and you are on a journey, an infinite journey of learning, you are always unfinished. When you operate from the assumption that you are, I know this. Yeah, I know what my intuition is. I know the value of it. I know that I'm here to serve. Those I ams are the assumptions that believe that they know everything because they've done everything, because they've already mastered it and there's nothing left to learn, and everything's done. And they can do all these other things because all of that's done. But the completion that they're operating from is an unconscious awareness of what's actually happening. So this is again that opportunity to allow it to remain unfinished and always available for more. That's abundance, where more can consistently come in and you can consistently learn. You guys, you don't need to adopt I am as this complex truth. The identity will see it that way. The identity will see this as being something complex. It doesn't quite understand. It can't get it. It's not, if that comes up, just gently allow your awareness to pay attention. Those are assumptions that are tied to a core belief that you get to discover. I do feel that I am, in its purest essence, is the truth that lives clearly through the spaciousness of being unfinished, which means that you don't, like I said, you don't need to adopt it. You don't need to claim it, but you get to allow it. The most important thing is to really notice when you stop letting it breathe. When your I am is not in the relaxation of the safety and security, pay attention. And in this coming week, I would invite you to just pay attention to your thoughts, your behaviors. Not, I want you to observe. I'm not going to say I want you to observe when your identity wants to rush in and try to fix something or to try to use it. Okay. So in this coming week, just watch how your I am shows itself. Not to fix it, not to use it. And again, just observing when your identity wants to rush in, because your identity will want to fix it. Your identity will want to use it to show itself, to perform, the show off of the know-it-all. Just give yourself permission to pay attention and to breathe and to allow. And give yourself permission to explore and to discover. I always tell my clients, this is not a serious business. It is a business of accountability. It's not even a business. It's an exploration that's anchored, that's outlined, that's structured. Its foundation is built brick by brick through self-accountability and self-responsibility. It is built brick by brick by giving yourself permission to explore with curiosity. The identity does not feel safe in curiosity. It feels safe in control. And so this is about breaking the habit of the need, the impulse, the compulsion to control. And if you start giving yourself permission to uncover the relationship you have with words, you will realize that the majority of your autonomic relays, your automated, your ANS, your nervous system, is coming from internal core data systems, if you will, packets of information that believe more in the need to control than anything else. So they speak from that space of need to control. And if you give yourself permission to consciously and intentionally and purposefully observe how you respond, how you react, and what that feels like in your body, you will start to make connections that you've never made. So with that being said, again, thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you for being here. Those that choose to tune into this, you guys, I do not take it lightly, because this is the most important thing that we can do for ourselves. It is the most glorious gift that we give back to ourselves in abundance, is this type of discovery. And as always, if you are interested in working with me, I have, even though I've rebranded, rescripted everything in terms of my offerings, I do have a few different tiers here for private mentorship. I have my highest tier, and I have a year and a 6 month. And I also now have an entry mentorship where you can work with me for a month for a lowered rate to get a feel for what it's like. After that, there is a 3-month window, and you can do that for 3 months. After that 3 months, you either go into the 6 month or the year. So you do have an opportunity to work with me. You would pay monthly. The 6 month and the year, you pay upfront. There is a minimum payment of $3,333. And that's intentional. That's a part of the rules. That's a part of the regulations. That's a part of the structure to show your nervous system that it's safe to invest without fear that you're not going to be able to accomplish something, right? We want to work through that. So everything is set up price-wise and structure-wise. It's very intentional. The monetary amount is very intentional. This is a space where you get to explore yourself in depth. And obviously, anytime you invest monetarily, you're going to be more committed. I do have a free space. Anyone is welcome to join. And that free space is dedicated to this exact thing right here. It is not going to be at the depth or the level as my private mentorships, but I am looking at offering like an intensive, maybe once or twice a year, where I do offer this type of work for a month for everyone for free. So, that's something I'm looking into. I'm feeling into, and I do feel that would be very, very beautiful. And I feel like it would be it's something that would be a good thing for me to step into and step out of the structure that I've been in. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and say that is one thing I am committing to doing, is offering that for everyone, once to twice a year. So I will also have, of course, more of these pre-recordings and lives coming out. If you enjoy the longer sessions, you can join the lives where I can connect with you in real time. And yeah, everything else that's coming out is coming out when it comes out. And I have plenty of things in the work, but I am learning not to share it and just to go into it. Okay, that's one thing. That's also a habit I'm breaking, is sharing everything with everyone, and then there's an expectation that I have to meet that, and all these things. So thank you, everyone. I love you. And once again, this is Jessica and Ayawasi, and we are so excited to join you in exploration and self-discovery. And I absolutely look forward to our next time together. Until then, Adonai.